Welcome to Stuck in My Mind podcast, the show where we dive into the mind of a regular guy on his road to self-discovery. You'll hear everyday people just like you share the latest topics, personal stories, and things they've learned along the way. And now, please welcome your host, Wise.
And welcome to another episode. I am your host, W-I-Z-E, and I have a very special guest on. He's an award-winning international rock act, and he actually has an album that came out this month. The name of the album is called Fate. Welcome to the show, Rich Hall. What's going on, Rich?
Hey, Wise, what's happening, man? I appreciate you having me on, man. It's a great show. I've checked you out in the past, and it's a real show, and I like to be real too, man. So I should fit in nicely in your world.
Man, listen, I just love to talk to people, and if I can have anybody, listen, anybody that wants to come on and talk to me, I love it. This is not what I do for a living. I'm not in the media. I wasn't in radio, none of that.
That's why I was wondering why I liked you so much. That tells me why.
No, man, I just started podcasting in 2020. And I got furloughed from my job at the local casino.
Yeah.
And so I had nothing to do. I was home. The wife had a big honey to-do list for me.
Oh, yeah. That'll get you working quick, man. I know what the feeling. Yeah, that'll get you back at it.
So I was like, yeah, I got to find me something to do. And I had already purchased this equipment. And I was just laying around. And one day I was just talking with my nephew, and I just decided to press record. And the podcast was launched that way.
Word, it's kind of funny, and it applies to music as well. People that are good communicators like yourself, it's not something, people go to school for that stuff, right? And spend a lot of money. And yeah, there's stuff you learn, but there's some things about certain things you do in this world that can't be taught. And there's certain gifts and things we're all good at that nobody ever showed us how to do it. We just kind of, it's like a duck to water, and podcasting is your strength, and communicating with people and interviewing and etc. And yeah, people can try real hard to do something like you do, and doesn't necessarily. I would love to play center in the NBA, but as you can probably tell, I'd be lucky to make point guard. So I can like it all I want. That doesn't mean I'm good at something. And yeah, it's just kind of something you settle into, and if you're doing it and you're enjoying it, man, keep it going. Because most people that are really successful, I've noticed in my life, they've taken something, they didn't go into anything with an idea, I'm going to make money off of this. Some people do, and they're able to do that. But the real big successful people is just like, nah, I just was passionate about this. And the money, I just stumbled into the money. The money came later. And that's usually the way it works. It can work that way in broadcasting and music. I mean, although, from the streams don't pay much. So you got to really love what we do these days to get paid,
Yeah, well,
it is.
It actually isn't. The artists do not get paid anything for streams. They get paid pennies for if percentage of a penny or whatever it is.
No, yeah.
And it's crazy. That's why a lot of artists are starting their own pages and streaming their own music and doing their own thing, because probably when growing up, I know it was the thing to go sign to a major label.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Nowadays, you don't necessarily have to sign to a major label to be successful.
You don't, but that being said, you still have to be lucky as heck to get successful without one.
Yes. Because
there's so much out there, and this goes with all forms of broadcasting. Think of how many podcasts there are. Think about how many TV network news shows there are now. Everybody seems like got their own news show on TV. I mean, on regular Prime Video and stuff like that, Yeah. And there's a lot of competition out there in the music. It's no different, There's some things that a label offers that is great for a musician. But in our case, for example, we've been approached by labels before, but they all have a certain way of working, and it doesn't necessarily work the way we want to work. We don't like, for example, this album that we're talking about today. we wouldn't have the latitude, the time, or any of that to do it. To do it the way we wanted to. We had a label approach us like right when we were starting this project saying, okay, well, guys, we know you want to do this. We can do this down the road. And, but we want to put you out on tour. And I said, well, guys, that's great and all. I understand you haven't heard of us. A lot of people haven't, but a lot of people have. And if we start basically over again, in the industry with you all, those guys are going to have to wait 4 years before they hear anything new. I'm not going to do that. That's not cool, So we decided, no, we'll stay independent. And there are some limitations on some things because of that. But I'm not going to say that every artist gets all that from a label anyway, because artists pay for it. When your marketing and everything the label does for you, if you read in the fine print in the contracts, you're paying for all that. Your big party you're throwing for your CD or your album coming out or whatever, yeah, you're paying that bill. Just remember it. Every time somebody's doing something, you're doing something cool, chances are you're paying for it. So, it's not as glamorous and great as it seems. And I guess it is for the few. But it's like that in every industry, it's not just music. And
it is. It's real, right? Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
But it's something I learned about music was that some of these big labels sign artists just to sign them. They might not even have plans of releasing their albums or releasing them. They just have them signed. And
yes, marketing for them to say, yeah, we got, if they could sign, they're going to get you to sign with them, right?
Yeah.
But if they could, they would love to have him on their label and say, all right, we don't want you to do anything except just sit there and look pretty, because we just want other artists to know you're on our label, and that'll bring them here. That's part of it too, man. Yeah. That's one world I don't necessarily, the inner workings of the labels I'm not an expert on. And obviously, or maybe we would be signed to one, but not necessarily, because I just told you we can say no when we have.
Yeah.
It's what I want to do. I've been on this earth long enough. I know what I want out of life at this point. And it's not all, before our interview, I was out staking my tomato plants. That's how I roll, I'm not
you enjoy life, man. Yeah, man. You're just a real person, man.
And I got a summer too, and I got the things I like to do, and they're not fancy by any means. People would probably be bored by the stuff that turns me on, but that's me, But I'm just a normal person, man.
Yeah, that's everyone. Everybody has their little things that they like to do. And some people might consider it different and unique, but that's what makes us unique. That's what makes us us.
Well,
being the same.
If I had to kind of put myself out there, and I did at a little bit of a time back in my much younger days, I'd probably, a lot of people think, rock star life, what's that like? They have all these visions in their head. Well, it all depends on what point in life you're in, I suppose. If I was 20 again, now I'm sure I wouldn't be in the garden. I'd probably be doing something else. But that, when I was 20, I wasn't doing that anyway, and I was doing music and stuff like that even then. But, it's just, it's life happens to people. And I don't know. I'm more mature now, I guess, about the approach. And I'm able to, quite honestly, I wish I had my wisdom now about 20 years ago, when I could have done a lot more with it, right?
But that's what we all say. I was like, I wish I knew what I knew today.
You know what, though, man? I can't really say that, though. I'm not one of those people that looks back and goes, man, I wish I would have. No, life presented itself the way it did. And when you find out about my story, no, I wouldn't take a step backwards. I wouldn't want to necessarily go through everything I've gone through again to get to talking to you. But that being said, the way things ended up, somebody asked me the other day in an interview, it was a really good question. Would you rather have that life back that you had, or the life you've got now? And they expect me to say now. It's not necessarily an easy an easy answer. And I guess we'll get into that in a little bit more detail here later, or whenever you want to. But yeah, life's a process, man. And I don't think it serves anybody well to dwell on the past, because you can't do anything about it. And I don't think it serves anybody well either. As Jesus said, let the worries of today be sufficient for the day. And he's basically saying, don't worry so much about tomorrow. Take care of what you've got in front of you today, and let tomorrow take care of itself, or part of those problems already be gone. You won't even have to worry about them. And the ones that do, you'll deal with them. But you can't waste that energy worrying about what hadn't happened yet, and apply your 100% to what you got in front of you right at the moment. You know, we're doing an interview right now, for example. I've got stuff that I got to do later on, but you know what? I'm not going to let my brain go there, because then I'm not going to give you 100%. And then what's the point of me doing this? I'm not doing myself any favors, and you were kind enough to have me on. So no, bring it every day with your 100%. And if that 100% that day is not doing a damn thing, then do it well. You know, if you got to rest that day, then you do it well. You know, whatever though, you know, you can't get caught up in what ifs and why nots, and just have some faith and do your best. And more often than not, things will work out great for you.
And you're absolutely right, man. I understand, because I was widowed at 31. I lost my wife in a car accident, and I was self-destructive. I was self-medicating.
So you got it, man.
I was headed down the wrong path, and it was because and even after I lost my wife, it was like I had loss after loss after loss, and I was like, why are you? I was like angry with God, angry with the world. Like, why am I such a bad person that all these things are happening to me?
To me, yeah. Why me, God?
Yeah. And so for years I was angry, and then one day it hit me, man. It was like, why are you so angry? Why are you angry over things you had no control over? Everything that happened, as far as losing my wife and then all the other losses after that, it was things I couldn't control. And when I started to realize that I had no control over that, and I shouldn't continue to be angry, things started changing. I sought help. I turned my life around. I remarried. I got a pretty great career. I started my podcast, so I'm back on my path.
Right, man. Thank God. Awesome.
Yeah.
And congrats, man, because you know what? Those roads, people say, well, you know, that part of your story, I can relate to you, and you can relate to me already, because you said you went down that road. Well, I went down that road quite a bit further, it sounds like, than you did, unfortunately. But you understand that same process, and you also understand that by whatever reason or however you stopped it, if you hadn't, we wouldn't be talking. If we hadn't, we wouldn't be talking right now. And it's not as people are like, well, yeah, that's a story that you hear, you know, maybe not frequently, but you've heard before. But the thing people have to remember is the story that you never hear, and that is the millions of people, or countless people, that never made it back. That their shit ended. You know, it didn't end well either. And you never hear those stories. Those are much more plentiful than these than the ones that ended up with in a good way. You know, had a happy ending. The ones that I've known most of my life did not end it that nicely. And I was almost there too. So, and you were on your way. And losing, you know, mine was divorce. Divorces in some ways can be, you know, it's a lot like death. The feelings you go through. And since then, my ex-wife has passed in a car accident. And, you know, I have my two boys now with me, thank God. But that's what really started me out to begin with, was she left me and took the boys with her. And that was my whole life. That was my whole reason for being. And maybe you can relate to this, you know, the reason I get up in the morning and go at 6 a.m. and come home at 9 p.m. 5-6 days a week is to provide for them and do everything I was taught growing up. This is what a man does. And, you know, you get out there and you make the most money you can. You get the best job you can. You work your butt off as soon as you can. There'll be time later to enjoy all your fruits of your labor. Well, I was married for 14 years, first time. And that's how it ended with me coming home to an empty house, you know, in some ways. You know, the kids were gone, she was, and that's when my self-destructive path started, and it ended up me losing my house, my job. I've been at that same company for 10 years, and I think you can relate exactly. You understand that when you wake, when all that goes down and it hits you, and you go, all the stuff I was working my tail off for, why was I doing that again? I don't need to do that anymore. Heck with it. And that's basically how I thought. I was like, you know, no reason. So I'm a Christian. I've never been suicidal. I wasn't going to kill myself. But I just didn't care what happened to me. And that went on for 4 years or so. And then I ended up being pronounced dead on an emergency room table. And after my blood vessels in my throat blew out. And that was just, I drank so much. I drank enough for 10 people for 10 lifetimes.
Yeah, I know.
24/7, man. You know.
I know what you mean, brother.
And
I drowned my grief in alcohol, man, and
that's what I did.
And it was probably a year, 2 years of me just drinking continuously.
Well, I drank my whole life, you know, so I had a good head start on it. But it was like one of those things where I was a functional alcoholic and I was drinking, but it didn't affect my work. It didn't affect anything I did. And I kicked it up to a whole new level, man. And plus my Army training, drinking wise, didn't hurt any. You know, if you're in the military, man, that just kind of goes with the territory. No matter if you drink or not, you end up partying. You know, you got to do something to, you know, de-stress and whatnot. But yeah, that was it with me. I was in that bottle, and as a matter of fact, I didn't necessarily climb out. I broke the damn bottle, you know, at the end of the day, the way my medical stuff ended up. And after that, you know, it messed me up though enough to where I was without oxygen in my brain for a little bit. So my balance was gone. My memory was gone. When I woke up in another state in a hospital. I had no idea how I got there, what in the world was going on. And I woke up that day and just like, wow, who the F am I? And what's going on here? And the detox from alcohol ain't no joke. You know that one too, maybe, because I had gotten to the point where I shook. As soon as I woke up, I shook like a clown until I drank something. And I would be that way during the day if I didn't have enough alcohol running through me. I looked like I was drunk. I actually looked sober. If that makes sense, maybe it does. I actually felt normal when I was buzzing, and I never felt normal if I wasn't, and I was sick, you know, whatever. But when that happened, I said, I'm never drinking again. I haven't taken a drink since. So I figured, you know, God kept me alive for a reason. And like we were discussing earlier, it wasn't to sit and worry about. I had, you know, that question you're asking, why, whatever, that was not completely put to rest, but it wasn't like, it was more like the answer was, why not? You know, you're here now. What are you going to do? You gonna die? Because you just let yourself fade away and be done. Or are you going to fight? And I chose to fight. And it was a daily process. Then days turned into 3 or 4 days. I was never one of those people that took to AA or any of those kind of quote unquote programs. I don't need to talk in a higher power. I know what his name is. His name's God to me. And that's what's most important. And a lot of people say, yeah, I prayed to the Lord and he took it from me. And if that's their case, God bless them. God made me suffer through every moment of it, including the shaking in bed. I mean, you know, not being able to sleep. I used to get up, and I remember I used to get up and just walk in the house laps because I could not sleep and I couldn't keep my legs from just doing whatever they wanted to. Just crazy stuff like that coming off this. And the doctor told me he goes, right up with heroin, he goes, alcohol is the most dangerous drug to get off of, and it's also the most difficult. And I believe it after, you know.
It is. I have a brother now who's he's suffering from cirrhosis of the liver. He's already been rushed to the ER a few times because he stops breathing in his sleep and he's coughing up blood and all that. And yet he continues to drink. He continues to drink, and when we tell him something, he's like, "Oh, shut up! It's my life. I want to."
Does he want to die?
I guess no.
Maybe your brother should talk to me because I can tell him exactly where it ends up. I don't know if he's gotten ascites yet, but that's in his future. If he's lucky enough to live that long. He looked like he's having triplets.
Oh no, he's been through it, and
well, the next step
he would stop, and then a week later after he's right back at it, and we tell him, it's like, listen, you're 60 something years old.
Oh well, the age has part of, you know, it's hard to tell somebody that old what are they gonna do?
Yeah, he's like, I'm gonna live my life the way I want, and I'm not gonna fight with him. I'm not gonna drive myself crazy. He's my brother. I love him, but I'm not gonna drive myself crazy because I have my own issues I have to work. I have my own demons I have to face.
Yeah, you don't. And sometimes, yeah, I understand.
And so,
yeah,
sometimes you just can't help everyone.
Well, you know, here's one thing though, and I think when it comes to call it rehabilitation, call it, you know, treatment, whatever. You know, I don't go on those buzzwords. I quit drinking. That was it. But
that's because you wanted to live. You wanted.
Well, here's the thing: you can't. But you hit on something, and it's with him or anybody else that's having this problem. People always address and beat people up over their addiction. And if people spent as much time trying to figure out why somebody is doing it as much as they are to get them to stop, if you put that same amount of energy trying to get somebody to stop doing something into finding out why they're doing it, then you'll have more success. And I found that these treatment programs and et cetera, they're all about actions and, you know, going and telling everybody you're sorry, whatever. I mean, if it works for people, don't get offended because I don't mean to do so. But what they're not trying to do is really get to the root cause. Why are you an alcoholic, or why are you abusing drugs? And I don't mean that they're asking you to tell them, because sometimes you don't know. And you may learn that through like talking to a psychologist, through prayer, whatever. But you find out, well, okay, this is really what I'm upset about and the pain I'm trying to make it go away. And then once you're able to address that, what I'm trying to say is you got to find something with someone has to have motivation that is stronger to them than the addiction is. And I know it's hard to find. In my case, it was my children. I had 2 boys. I couldn't just pack it in my opinion. I mean, some people may say, well, hey, man, you did the best you could do. A lot of people did say that to me. As a matter of fact, you love those boys as much as you can. You do what you can when you got the opportunity. That wasn't satisfactory for me. I still lived across the country from them because that's the way it turned out. So then I could never really see them. You know, I went a year without seeing them one time. And it was like, okay, if I can't change their situation, I'll change mine. I'll move closer. Well, guess what? Where I live now is in Colorado. They were living in New Mexico. That state borders this one. I made it my goal, and I wasn't going to stop for nothing to get here, and I made it. But that motivation is what drove me, and it's what kept me going on a day after day basis that gave me the will and the courage to quit drinking. Not only, but once I recognized that God did me a solid like that, I couldn't let him down, man. I was like, he could have wasted that. If I would have done that, it'd be like me wasting maybe somebody else's chance or something, you know, Give it to somebody that's deserving it. I've got cirrhosis, believe it or not. And it's not, doesn't sound like it's, maybe it's far advanced in that. It's about probably what his is. If he'll stop now, he might be all right. It is, you know, to the point that I get screened for liver cancers every 6 months. But I'm just not going to drink anymore. That was it. And now if I continued, I'd be dead, you know. But nah, if I'm going to go out, I'm going to go out for something else. Let me get hit by a jet plane or something crazy, you know. some crazy, something exciting, man. I ain't going out like that, you know. So no, not inebriated for sure, and not you know. I also had the motivation of I needed, you know, I'd always put such value in my possessions and things because I thought that that's what, you know, being successful was. And, you know, kids, they just want a dad they can be proud of. They don't care what kind of, for the most part, I mean, kids get to that age where they're embarrassed of their parents. We all know that. But, you know, because we've all been those kids, maybe to a certain extent. But no, kids just, they want you to be somebody they can look up to. And my kids could not look up to a drunk.
Yep.
You know, no matter how much money I was bringing in. That would, you know, the negative outweighed the positive in those cases. And I still tried to be, even then, I wasn't a staggering drunk when I lived with them. Obviously, that got worse afterwards, but because I wouldn't be doing the job I did. But I was fooling myself in a way, too, that you can kind of straddle that line and it's never going to catch up with you. And it just took something to put me over that top. Now, the divorce thing is something completely different. I have no control over that. And once I let that go and kind of, you know, like you said, once you finally said, hey, I didn't have anything to do with it. Once I was able to do that, then I kind of, it's never completely going away.
Yeah, of course not. Never.
But time also helps, you know.
Yes. It helps. It helps with it doesn't hurt as much as it did. It still hurts. It's still, the pain's still there, but it's with time you tend to heal more and it hurts less and less.
Yeah. Well, you know, yeah, I know. Go ahead.
No, and so yeah, that's one of the reasons why I do my podcast, is because everyone has a story. Everyone has a unique story, and
absolutely.
And for people to come and share their story on my podcast, who knows? There might be a few people that might have to hear this episode. They might be struggling with alcohol abuse and
somebody is.
Yes, yeah, and they might hear this and be like, oh man, Rich Hall turned it. I can do it then. He stopped drinking. I can do it then. And so when I started it, at first it was me just ranting about work and news and politics, and it was just not fun. And when I switched it up to conversations, to having great conversations with people and having people come tell their stories and just basically show people that, hey, there's regular people out here doing some great things. And so my thing was just to put out positive content. That was my goal, my focus.
Well, you know, man, I'm not trying to think, I'm not arrogant enough to ever think I'm going to change the world, but I can, in a sense, and we all can. And that is just in your own little circle. If you make a positive mark there, it'd be just your family. You know, I mean, we're just talking about, you know, people you love today. And I got people that are flashing through my head when you're talking about, because we all have somebody. It may not even be an addiction issue. It may be something completely different, but in their life, that's just causing them problems, you know. And we want to help that person so bad, but we know that at the end of the day, they can only help themselves. And I found, unfortunately, people with faith can be the easiest to help and also the most difficult. Because if they're a person of faith and they've kind of resolved themselves to whatever their end is going to be, they're like, hey, I know what's going to happen to me. I'm fine with it. And you can't hardly talk to people like that. And that was me for a while, you know. I'd be like, okay, yeah, I may die. So what? You know, that means I ain't going to have to deal with this BS anymore. I'll be with my family, you know, blah, blah, blah. And so it was hard to tell me. So nobody told me. It had to come from within me. But and I had the whole family around telling me the same things. Problem was they're talking to the wrong dude. If they would have told me that quitting drinking would have, you know, I don't know. If they had told me that quitting might have ended it for me, that would have been just as appealing, maybe. It's kind of hard to say, you know. I mean, it's not easy. Everybody's different, and that's why when we tried to treat people like in groups and labels and everybody's this way,
it's difficult because everyone's not the same. You're absolutely right. You can't treat everybody the same. Every treatment for everyone is different. Like it is. You have to really get to know that person.
You know what? The one thing is you can't judge a book by its cover. And I'll give you a great example right now. Do you know I found out through this that I have sickle cell anemia. You know what's wrong with that statement coming from me, right?
Yes, I know. Yeah.
It's not wrong though.
No, I'm not saying it is, but it's not.
I know.
It's very rare. Yeah.
If somebody looked at me and said, you have black ancestry. Yes, I do. You wouldn't necessarily know it by looking at me. No. But if you knew me very well, when I was in the Army, there were some things that kind of jumped out a little bit. At least my boss back then, Sergeant Clark, he's like, man, he goes, you're the whitest black dude I've ever known. I go, what do you mean, Sergeant Clark? He goes, here. He showed me what magic shave was because I was having a lot of problems shaving.
Razor bumps. Yeah, razor bumps, yeah.
He goes, oh, have you ever looked at your ancestry? I said, no, sir. He goes, you ought to. He goes, you know, it was funny because we were out that day. And he goes, all right, here's a test. He goes, here's Curtis Mayfield. He hit play. Because you like that? I go, hell yeah, I like that. He goes, okay, I thought so. But yeah, no, I found that out and I was like, wow, you know, so don't judge a book by its cover.
You're absolutely right. Sickle cell, I mean, when you think of sickle cell, you think of someone of color.
Yes, you do, because you have to have that trait in you to have that.
Yeah.
But that was one of the reasons I found out I was anemic. So after I almost bled out, the doctors actually saw it coming on a little bit. They just didn't recognize it for what it was because they didn't look. And then after further testing,
it didn't.
Well, I may not have either, but still, you're supposed to be a doctor. That's why I'm paying you, you know. But I was going to the VA. Not saying the VA is bad or anything. Because at the end of the day, I mean, that's where I was when I lived through that. But I'm just using that to say, we can't lump people into any category and labeling people and judging people so much. It doesn't do you any good for being that way because you're going to miss something important about someone, and it sure doesn't do them any good. And that's why, addiction is one of those things. It needs to be more individualistic in its treatment approach, I believe.
Yeah, I agree with you on that.
And I think if they hit to the root cause of people's problems, they can really start helping more people. But yeah, helping a family member, man, is it tears you up.
So tell us about Fate. That's the name of the album. You just released it recently.
Yeah, well, Fate, it deals with a lot of the stuff we've been talking about. It's a concept album. Me and Pedro, when COVID happened, Pedro is my guitarist. He's the second half of Fall No One. We're a rock duo. And he has a composition background. He actually went to the University of Sheffield in the UK for that. So with both of our musical backgrounds are kind of diverse. And then when you put them add them up together, it gives us something kind of unique, So we wanted to do something really unique for this album. And it's a concept album. And what it deals with that story that we've been talking about of how basically I lost everything and had to make the decision whether or not to fight my way back or just give up. And it it captures that story not only in the music, but we employed some other techniques to make it more exciting for the audience, and that wherein we employed voice actors, and we attempted to and did quite well at reenacting some of the events that happened in the story. Just like you would hear if you were in a movie and you just closed your eyes instead of looking at the screen, that's what you would hear. We tried to come up with that same type of approach for the album. And we have a pretty good story, we think. And why look any further than something we already had? I mean, obviously we won't do another story like this ever, because it's a true one. And there aren't too many concept albums that I know that are true, that are also autobiographical. So yeah, we decided, and there was a lot of work that went into that. It took about a year to record, and a year and a half total in production and everything, and recording it on 2 different continents. Pedro is he's in Portugal now. He kind of switches time between Portugal and Brazil, and yeah, recording in that way kind of made it a little bit challenging, but it was also a real fun project to work on, and the results have been great. Our title track is number 5 right now on the Emerging 300 chart, so we're happy with that. And the people that have heard it have really dug it, and it's kind of transcending. Even fans of other genres are digging what we're doing a little bit on this album, especially my friends in hip hop, which makes me happier and happy, because Pedro actually just got done doing a project where he got to work with ODB's son, Young Dirty. Yeah. He just did something with him not too long ago, and we know so many people in hip hop. It's awesome that they're digging what we're doing too.
That's definitely. It's crazy when you look at the evolution of hip hop from where it started, to where it is now, to it's probably, if not the top genre now.
Oh, it is. It's kind of waning a little bit right now, but it's still, hey, I don't know. That's kind of the first album I ever purchased was a Run DMC album. I got the cassette back in the day. That was the first one. King of Rock. That was the first one I ever got in my life. And I loved Run DMC, man. And then after that, I bought Dawkins, which is like a hard rock band. And then Run DMC hit with that Aerosmith song. Yeah, so I like the old school hip hop, even some of the, 2 Live Crew. Yeah. That's a little, a little racist.
Nasty as you want to be, yes.
Back in the day, I don't know, kid, less than 10 years old. We got our hands on that album, and oh boy, yeah. It was definitely an experience listening to Uncle Luke and 2 Live Crew. Oh, sure. That I forget the song. Oh, it's called "I Ain't Bull." You know what? That song. That's my favorite 2 Live Crew song still to this day, with the Richard Pryor drop right in there. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know, man. I like a lot of different music, and hip hop's it's still right where it should be. It's right in the mix, and I don't know. I kind of it's grown from where the artists from like you said, artists like Run DMC and stuff like that, they transcended time. I don't want to date myself, man, but when I was in AIT, this is like your advanced training in the Army. That is when Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg first hit. That was 93, right?
Yeah.
And
it was early. It was like 92, around 91, 92. Yeah.
But that's when I was exposed to it. And I'd always been a fan of some of the West Coast stuff, but the earlier stuff.
I used to love it. Yeah. NWA.
Easy was my man. And then I was like, they're like, oh, this is Snoop Dogg. I go, oh, I know who he is. I'd not heard anything he'd done, but I had heard Eazy-E talking about him, not in a so flattering way, So right then, man, I just loved not when it got out of hand, but one of the things I always liked about hip hop is how competitive of a genre it is, because it made the music better. You know, when there's that competitive, it keeps everybody at the top of their game. And
it was normal to have hip hop beef and release a diss track, but then when the Pac and Biggie stuff happened and it got out of control and people started losing their life over it, that's when it completely changed. But like Kumo D versus LL Cool J, KRS-One versus MC Shan, all these beefs, hip hop beefs, that they just laid them on track. It wasn't put to the streets. It was just laid on tracks, and that's where it stood at.
Well, you know, I was actually playing a track for my 4-year-old yesterday. That's one thing. If you don't stop, man, you don't know what God's got for you later on. I got remarried. I've got my other 2 sons that were taken from me are here with me now, all in the same house, man. Everything is like the Job story, you know, where he got everything taken away, but then God blessed him later on, and then even more so. And you know, hey, I got that, and I'm very thankful to the Lord for that. But I think that a lot of people kind of lost its edge a little bit because it was missing some of that stuff, you know, kind of the rivalries. But yeah, you saw where they went with the East Coast, West Coast stuff, and thankfully it's gone. It seems to be gone now, but not completely. That'll never go away. Business is business, and business is dirty.
Yeah.
And but who knows? Who knows where the next evolution is gonna come from? But the one thing I appreciated about hip hop is that, at least at the very roots of it, they didn't really, you know, man, they understood music. Some people that are not non-musicians, I will say, and I'm just going to say fans, especially coming from some genres outside of hip hop, they always just listen, oh yeah, it's just some guy, you know, rapping. Anybody can do that. I've heard that, you know.
Yeah.
To make something interesting and to make something meaningful and to make something have a sound and everything that works the way a really, really great hip hop song works, you have to have almost a encyclopedia knowledge of music to put all the pieces and parts together. Not so much as the way maybe some artists are doing it now. I'm talking about going back a few ways. Something that's a lost art almost now is like the record scratch, man. You don't hear it as much. Well, there's a reason why it was so part of the music, not just the DJing aspect of it, which is just great, but it also lets you know these cats had stacks of records at home. They had spent hours listening to music from every genre. They understood how everything, you know, music interacted and related to each other. And then all that, they took all that big stuff and they put it down into one little song. But it sounds like just, well, anything's easy if you can do it, you know? So it's just like rock is. There's the good, the bad, and the ugly, you know? Good music of any genre is good. I don't care what it really is. If it's really good, you hear it. And when I was younger, I didn't think about genres or this or that. I thought, what is cool? And that's what was cool to me, you know? And I think as long as hip hop doesn't lose that magic, you know, it'll be fine. Now, if you get, people can always hear the same storyline so many times and it'd be interesting unless you present it in a new and genuine way. Problem is, people have forgotten that the great people that they're trying to imitate were genuine to start out with. And this goes to any artist. Were genuine to start out with. And that was why people liked them. Just because you can copy everything they do doesn't necessarily mean people are going to like you. There's hundreds of examples of where that's failed. And it's not, no, they did it their way, in a real way. And like we said earlier, the audience knows if you're being real or not. And as soon as they figure out you ain't, they're gone. So I don't know. with that little tirade. I do those every now and then, man.
It's good, man.
I'm not a professional broadcaster like you, you know.
Nah, it was good. But man, Rich, man, I appreciate you coming on, man. But now is the part of the show where you just plug away, let everybody know where they can find the album, where they can find you at, everything. Right
on. Go to Fate the album, FATE the album.com. We got like a movie trailer that opens up the site, and you'll see me laying there. Well, you go look at it. It looks like a movie website, but fatethealbum.com. Sign up there and you get some free music just for checking us out. And follow noonemusic.com. And we're on all your socials and music streaming platforms. All you got to do is just go to Google and type in Follow No One Rock or Follow No One Fate, whatever, and you'll find us. Or Follow No One. That's fine. It'll take you where you want to go.
All right. Rich, thank you for coming by, man.
Yeah, man, good pleasure, brother.
But don't leave just yet. I'm gonna do my shout outs, and me and you're gonna chat a little bit off the air.
Right on, right on.
All right, so it is time for shout outs. Oh man, it's not working.
Oh no. He's disappeared. I'm running the show now, guys. Oh, he's back.
All right, now, yeah, as this piece of equipment that I got that I was trying, but I gotta save that for another day. Yeah. But all right, so big time. All right, so now it's time for shout outs. Big shout out to my Real Wise fam, Poppy J, Brandy J. Love you guys. Big shout out to the boss lady, Fina. Love you, baby. Big shout out to Rich Hall for coming through and showing mad love. And as always, a big shout out to all the essential workers out there. God bless y'all. Be safe. And you know how your boy Wise does it. Peace out.
Thanks for listening. Listen on iTunes, Podbean, Spotify, and TuneIn. Find us on social media on Twitter at @wise_b_blunt, Instagram at @wise_b_blunt, and a Facebook fan page, www.facebook.com/wise76. Check back soon for new episodes. Until next time, peace out.
Yo.